Hello guys, my name is Will Ngugi, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create this application step by step with no step skipped. So this application is a to-do list application, and we are going to design this UI. As you can see here, I'm in the sign in screen, but I can click on this green link here to navigate to the registration screen. So I'm going to go back to the sign in screen, and I'm going to sign in with an account that I had already created. So once I log into the account like that, I get presented with the task that I had created before. So to create a task, you just go to the bottom navigation bar here and click on add. You are then presented with a screen like this, and I can create a task here. And then I can select on priority, that is low, medium or high. And then you can click on the button to add task. Once the task is added like that, navigating back to home, I can see the task over here. So this task, I can either delete it, I can edit it, and I can check it as complete. So to edit it, I just click on this pencil icon over here. And then I can edit the title and also the description. So I'm going to say create tutorials today, for example. And then I can click on update. As you can see, the title now changes to create tutorials today. I can also check this task as complete by checking the checkbox here. Okay, and or I can check it as incomplete by unchecking it like that. Alright, also I can delete it by clicking on the red icon here. Are you sure you want to delete? By clicking delete, it gets deleted from the Firestore database. You can also organize your tasks by incomplete. So by clicking on the incomplete here at the bottom, we filter by those tasks that are incomplete. By clicking on this completed here, we can see we have one task that is complete. Alright. And finally, by going to the account, presented with this simple screen, which we can tap on the logout, and we can be logged out successfully. So this application is quite a small one, as you have seen, but I'm going to approach it as if this application was to be extended in future, and therefore I'm going to organize my folders and files in ways that offer good separation of concerns. I'm going to use Riverpod for state management. I'm also going to use Firestore to store the data, and I'm going to use Firebase Authentication for authenticating our users. So let's get started. So to create a Flutter application, you first navigate to the folder that you want to create that application, and then you open the CMD there. I prefer to use the CMD to create a Flutter application. So I'm going to come to this link here, and then you can type CMD, and that will open the command prompt. Once the command prompt is opened like that, you can type Flutter create, and then the name of the application. I'm going to call mine to do Firebase YT, and then you press enter. So that should create your application. As you can see now here, we have this project. So I'm going to open this application in Android Studio, but feel free to use VS Code because it works just fine. So with Android Studio, I can now open that project in that particular folder. So here is my application here to do Firebase YT, and I'm going to press on open. So one thing that I like to do, because Android Studio for some reason does not do this automatically, I'm going to open settings. In the settings, I'm going to search on save. There is this part here that says actions on save. I'm going to tap on that, and then I'm going to check this one out. So reformat code, I want to ensure that that is checked, and then click on apply and OK. So that way, when I save on the file, it's going to be auto-formatted, and then the application is going to hot reload. And then it's important to try and run the application right now to ensure that everything is set. So I'm using an emulator. So running the application for the first time might take some time, but from there it's quite easy because you just hot reload and you see the changes. So the first thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to open this min.dat file, and I'm going to clean it out. So let me just start by cleaning out these comments, and then I'm going to delete that. In the title, I'm going to rename this title to do app Firebase. Then I'm going to set debug show checked mode banner to false, and then I'm going to edit my theme data. I'm going to change the seed color to colors.green. I'm also going to change the app bar theme. So app bar theme dot copy width, background color to colors.green, and I'm going to center my title. So center title to true. So to remove these underlinings here, I can convert this to a const app theme like that. And then I'm going to set my bottom navigation bar theme. So bottom navigation bar theme const bottom navigation bar theme data. dot copy width. I'm going to set the background color to colors.green, set the selected color to colors.white, and selected item color to colors.black. So for the navigation of this application, I'm going to use GoRouter for navigation. And to do that, let me install GoRouter. So to install the GoRouter package, I'm just going to type Flutter pub add GoRouter like that. Sorry, I made a mistake there, like that, and that should add the GoRouter. All right, so another package that we're going to use is Flutter Riverpod. So I'm just going to add it right now. Flutter pub add Flutter underscore Riverpod. So Flutter Riverpod is a package for state management, and I'm going to use it in this application. Again, GoRouter is a package that you don't have to use it with a small application like this. But as I said in the first video, it's important to approach this small application like a big one, so that in case you need to make some changes or add some functionality in the future, you don't have to like start from scratch or something. So we have already added the GoRouter package and we added the Flutter Riverpod package. I'm going to add Google Fonts. I'm also going to add Riverpod annotation. I will also add the Intel package. I will also add Firebase Auth. So we are going to use this for authentication with Firebase. I will add Firebase Core, and I will also add Cloud Firestore. Alright, after that, I'm going to add two dev dependencies, that is Riverpod generator and the build runner. So to add dev dependencies, so Flutter pub add -d, and then you add the package name. So the first one is the build runner, build underscore runner, like that. And as you can see, with that, we have this one, the build runner has been added in the dev dependencies. And finally, the one that we are going to add is the Riverpod generator. So once we have added our dependencies, let me just go back. So once we have added all the dependencies, I want to declare all the routes that I'm going to use in this application. So I'm going to create a new folder inside the lib folder. And this folder, I'm going to call it routes. And then I'm going to create a new file inside of it, which I'm going to call routes as well. So here I'm going to declare the routes that I'm going to use. But I'm going to use Riverpod to provide these routes to the rest of the application. So I'm going to use @Riverpod GoRouter ref. So what we want is to return GoRouter. So we want to import the Riverpod annotation and also the GoRouter package. Don't know why it is not suggesting for me here, but it should for you. So inside this, so the GoRouter takes the routes, which is a list of routes. It also takes an initial location. Initial location for this, I'm gonna set to /main. All right. So I'm going to also show the debug log diagnostics. All right. And then we are going to get back to it to implement the redirect and refresh listenable, but I'm going to do that a little bit later. So inside the routes, we can create, we can define the routes. So I'm going to create 3 routes here. All right. So the first route is the main. All right. So I'm also going to create another one which I'm gonna call sign in, and another one that I'm gonna call register. All right. So each route can have a name. So all these names, I'm going to define an enum at the top here. So the enum, I'm gonna call it app routes. So the first one is main. We also have sign in, and we have register, like that. So for the name of this one, of the main, I'm gonna call it app routes dot main dot name, like that. The second one, I'm gonna call it app routes dot sign in dot name, and for the third one, name is app routes dot register dot name. So another thing that I should set is the builder. So the builder takes in the context and also the state and returns the widget that should load when we navigate to that route. So for this one, I'm going to call it main screen like that, and it is eventually going to be a const, right? So for the second one, it also takes a builder, context, and state, which should return a const sign-in screen. And thirdly, this one should also take a builder. So this one should give the register screen like that. Let me first remove these semicolons and replace them with commas. So we have first of all to create these screens so that we can solve this main error over here. So here I'm going to create a new folder or a package called features. Inside this feature, I'm going to create other folders. So the first folder that I'm going to create is authentication. And the second folder that I'm going to create, I'm going to call it task management. So it's going to be features.task management. Like that. So inside this authentication folder, I'm going to use an app architecture that works well with the Riverpod. So this app architecture divides the files of the project to 4 layers, that is application, domain, data, and also the presentation. So presentation is where things to do with state management, widgets, and the screens, they lie in the presentation layer. The domain layer is the models of the application. So the data layer is where Firebase stuff will live in, and also the application layer when you can have code for files and classes that depend on each other. So for the first one, authentication, I'm also going to create other folders here. Again, this might not be quite necessary for a small application like this, but if you plan on adding more features in future for this application, this kind of architecture can be very helpful. So I'm going to create folders here, presentation. So another folder that I said we can have here is domain. We can also have data and application. So every single feature should have these 4 folders. We are not going to use all of them in this small project, but when you are working on a big application like I have done in the past, you find that creating folder in this kind of structure gives you a lot of flexibility and also eases your time when working on the application. So for the sign-in and register, this one should live in the presentation layer of the authentication folder. So for now, I'm just going to close this one. So right here in the presentation, again, we can have folders and other widgets in the same place, but it will be also nice to create another like separation here. So I'm going to call that widgets, and I'm also going to create another package, and this I'm going to call screens. All right, so this is where eventually we can create the sign-in screen, and we can create the register screen here. All right, these screens are going to be consumer stateful widgets. I'm going to call this signing screen. For now, it can just return a scaffold. I'm going to edit this later, but for now we can have a title, which is a text that says sign in, like that. So let me import Flutter Riverpod to eliminate those errors like that. So in the registration screen is also going to be a consumer stateful widget. So we are going to add Riverpod, and also I'm going to import material that, and this I'm going to call it a register screen. Let me create a scaffold with an app bar, which I'm going to give it a title of text register, like that. So inside, so we also need to create another screen, the main screen, and to create that screen is going to live in the task management inside the presentation layer. So inside the screens, I'm going to create a new dart files, which I'm going to call main screen. So this main screen is going to be a simple stateful widget, which I'm going to call main screen. So import material dart to eliminate those errors. And here I'm going to call, I'm going to create a scaffold with an app bar with a title that says main screen, like that. So here in the routes, in the Go router, we can now solve these errors by importing the screens that I have just created, like that. We want now to solve this error, and to solve this error, first of all, we need to create part routes.g.dart. Okay, so with that, then you're going to run the build runner command to solve this error. So to do that, I'm going to run this command. So dart run build runner build -delete conflicting outputs. So hit enter. So the first time it can take some time to finish, but we can also run it on watch mode, so that every time we make something that is going to require an action like this, it runs automatically. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to use this one so that we can use it whenever we want. So as you can see, it has just finished. And if you look at the routes folder, we get this new file called routes.g.dart, which has created the Go router provider for us that we are going to use. Right, so since we have solved that error, we can now go to the main.dart file. In the material app, we can now say material app.router, and then we can create route config, which we are going to read from the provider. So what we need to do is that now we need to convert this class to a consumer widget, like that. And then to solve this error, we need to add widget ref. So, and to solve this error, we need to import Flutter Riverpod, like that. So since we have converted this to consumer widget, we can now read, you can now like watch the provider, and the provider that you want to watch here is the Go router provider. We set the initial location to main, and the main, it should give us the main screen. Before I run the application, as you can see here, it gives me this kind of error. What that means is that inside this my app, since we are using Riverpod, we need to wrap it with another widget called provider scope, like that. And then I'm gonna add the cons like that to format it. Okay, so now I can run this application and it should direct us to the main screen. So let me click on the restart. So once the application is restarted, as you can see now, we are directed to the main screen. So if you can take a look at what we want to accomplish in this application is that, first of all, we want to access the main screen only if we are logged in. If we are not logged in, we want the user to be directed to the sign-in screen. To achieve that, we can go back to Go router, okay, here, and then we are going to set redirect, and we are going to set the refresh listenable. So the redirect takes an anonymous function which takes two parameters, the context and the state. So, and we are going to use this state to determine the location of the user and then present them with a different screen depending on whether they are logged in or not. So to find out whether user is logged in or not, I'm going to create a small provider here. So provider, I'm going to call it Firebase out provider, and this is going to return Firebase auth .instance, and I'm going to import Firebase auth.dat. So once we have that, we can go to the Go router, and here we are gonna create final Firebase auth equals to ref.watch Firebase auth provider. So final is logged in equals to Firebase auth not current user is not equals to null. So if the user is logged in, and so we are going to check two conditions here. So state.uri.toStream. So if this equals to sign in, or state.uri.toStream equals to register, then we should return main. So what this means is that if we are in the sign-in page and registration page, and we have successfully signed in or registered, we should be directed to the main page. So else if we are not logged in, and state.uri.toString starts with main, in that case we need to return sign in. So what this one means is that if we are in the main page and we are logged out, then we should be directed to the sign in page, else we should return null. So for this now to work, we need now to implement the refresh listenable. So for that, we are going to create another file. So I'm going to right click on the routes, and I'm going to create a new file, which I'm going to call go router refresh stream. So class go router refresh stream extends change notifier, go router refresh stream dynamic, then we notify listeners. So inside here we are going to create a variable, a LED final stream subscription, which is of type dynamic, which I'm gonna call subscription. Then inside this constructor, I'm now going to use it. So subscription is equals to stream.as broadcast stream.listen. This one takes parameter dynamic. It then returns notify listeners. We are gonna override the dispose. So subscription.cancel, like that. So the class that we want to import here, so this change notifier should come from the foundation.dat, not the Cupertino.dat, but foundation.dat, like that. Okay, so once we have this class, we are gonna use it inside the refresh listenable. So go router refresh stream, we are gonna use Firebase auth state changes. We are going to direct our user every time the authentication state changes. So right now we don't have a current user, and we are inside the main, so we should automatically be directed to the sign-in screen since we are not logged in. And to prove that, I'm just going to run this application. So trying to run this application, I got this error. So inside here, I'm gonna say widgets flutter binding ensure initialized. So what I'm gonna do is that I suggest that we connect this application to Firebase so that we can solve these errors. So to connect the application to Firebase, first you can go to firebase.google.com, and then you can go to console. So I'm going to create a new project, which I'm gonna call Firebase YT. I don't want analytics, and I'm gonna click on create. So once that is done, you can click on continue. So as you can see, you can connect this application to iOS, Android, this is web, Unity, and also Flutter. So you just click on Flutter. So to connect your Flutter app to Firebase, you need to do some things, and I created a short note here to show you what you need to do. personally, I have already installed Node.js and I have already run this command, and I have also activated Flutter CLI. So the command that I need to run is this one. So Flutterfare configure -project to do Firebase YT. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm gonna go to my project and I'm going to go to the command prompt, and then I'm going to paste that here. So as that builds, I'm going to open the Android. I'm also going to open app. I'm going to open build.gradle. So ensure that your default config, you have changed the minimum SDK version to 23. So this will ensure that you don't get some errors. And I'm going to copy this package name here because I'm going to need it. So I'm going to copy it and close that. So for this application, I can leave Android and iOS, and then I'm going to click on OK. And then it's going to ask for package name. I'm going to paste the package name that I just copied, and then I can click on enter. So once that is done, as you can see, our application is connected to Firebase. If I can just close this window. So here you can see we have the Google services.json file, and we have this Firebase options.dat. So what else I need to do is that I need to copy this, and I am going to paste them in the main.dat file. So I'm going to open main.dat file. I'm going to paste. So to ensure that how it works, we are going to change this function to an async function like that. And then we are going to import Firebase core, and also are going to import this Firebase options.dat file like that. So by that, we have successfully connected this application to Firebase. So since we have made quite some changes, I'd advise that you close the application entirely and then you run it once again. So running the application, it solved our initial error, but it gives us yet another error, and this is based on our Go router. So let us navigate to Go router. I made some mistakes. So here it should have been /signin, and this should have been /register, and this one should have been /signin again. All right. So let me try to run it again. All right, this time the application runs successfully. We have been directed to sign in. All right, so this is because the user is of course not signed in. So the current user is null. So that's why we've been directed to sign in. So that is the purpose of this redirect, and also this refresh listenable right here. Okay, since we have that, we can now start working on the sign in page. So to do that, I'm going to open the sign in screen like this. Okay. So our sign-in screen is not going to have the app bar. Instead, I'm going to replace it with a body, a column. So column is going to have children. So the first child is going to be a text which says, sign in to your account. Like that. And then we have a hello emoji. I'm going to just get in from the internet like that. I'm going to save it. So as you can see, we have it over here at the top. So our scaffold, I'm going to wrap it with another widget. I'm going to wrap it with the safe area, right? So that we get away from the time and the battery and whatever, those kind of stuff. All right. So for the styling of this text, I'm going to create a new folder that is going to deal with the styling. So to do that, I'm going to go to the lib folder, and I'm going to create yet another folder, which I'm going to call utils. Inside this utils folder, I'm going to create a new file, which I'm going to call app styles. Okay, so this is going to be a class app styles. So inside this class, I'm going to define the styles that I'm going to use for the text of this application. Also, I'm going to create yet another class that I'm going to call size_config, size_config, and I'm going to use this one to get the proportionate height and width of the device. So this is going to be a class size_config. So first of all, what I need to do is to get the device height. So screen height, 0.0 static double screen width static void init. It's going to take build context. So we can now initialize the screen width equals to media query dot of context dot size dot width, and then we can do the same for the screen height. So screen height is equals to media query dot of context dot size dot height, like that. So here we can create a method that returns a double. I'm going to call it get proportionate height, which is going to take in some some variable that a person takes, and then is going to return, sorry about that, the input height that a person has just input. I'm going to divide that by 812, and then I'm going to multiply that by the screen height, like that. Okay, and then I can do the same for width. So I'm going to call it get proportionate screen width, like that, which is going to take some input width, and I'm going to divide this by 375, and then I'm going to multiply it with screen width, like that. Alright, so once I have that, I can go back to my app styles, and here I'm going to define the app style for the heading, for the title, and also for the normal text. So static final heading text style, Google Fonts. So inside of this class, I'm going to import Google Fonts. I don't know why it is not suggesting it automatically, because I have already installed the package, but it's still okay. But I'm going to use the McLaren for this particular application. So for the font size, I'm going to use size config. So we have just created this class, so get size config dot get proportionate height. I'm going to set it to 24. I'm going to give it a font weight of W600, and also going to give it a color of colors.black. Like that. So we need to import material dart so that we can use the color. Okay. So that is the heading text style. We can copy this again. So this one is going to be a title. So for the title, I'm going to give it a height of 20. This one's can remain like that. And this one is for the normal. And for normal, we can give it a text of, say, 12, for example. Actually, I'm going to give this a title of like 18, a height of 18, and let me reduce this to, say, 22. So I'm going to give this a font weight of W100, and I'm gonna give this a height, a font weight of, say, W400. So this one I can name this to capital S like that, so that it follows the correct naming style of a class. And I'm gonna save all that. Then I'm gonna go back to my sign-in screen. The style that I'm gonna use here is app styles. styles. I'm gonna use the title text style, okay, like that. And it will be nice to initialize the size config. So size config.init with the context. So I'm going to hot restart the application since we have added some files. And as you can see now, we have our sign in to your account text appearing over there. So before I even continue, I'm going to wrap this column into another widget called the single child scroll view. And then to give space to this text, I'm going to wrap this widget into a padding. I'm going to set edge insets dot from LTRB. So for the left, I'm going to give size config get proportionate screen width of 10 and move const. For the other one, I'm going to give size config get proportionate height of say 50 to give a good height there. For the right, I'm gonna go again with size config dot get proportionate width and set to 10, and for the bottom just give it 0. So that way we have some space at the top there. So after our text, we need to create a sized box here to create some space. So sized box with a height of size config dot get proportionate height, and I'm gonna give it a height of 25. So after that text, what we need to do now is to add the form field to input the email and also the password. So to do that, what I'm going to do, instead of adding all the code here, I'm going to go to the authentication folder here, and then inside the presentation, but inside this widgets folder here, I'm going to create a new file which I'm going to call common text field, like that. This is going to be a stateless widget, so it's going to be a common text field. I'm going to import material data to remove all those errors. Inside the build method, we are going to return a text form field, which is going to have a keyboard type. I'm going to have a controller. So we're going to have a decoration, which is of type input decoration. Hint text. Hint text. Hint style is going to be app styles dot normal text style. Is going to have a border of outline input border, a border radius of border radius dot circular. Give it a size of 30. Border side, which will be a constant. Border side color, colors.gray, and a width of 1.0. It's also going to have an enabled border, outline input border, border radius dot circular 30.0, a border side of const border side, color, colors.gray, width 1.0. We are also going to set the forecast border. Again, is of type outline input border, a border radius dot circular 30.0, and a border side color, colors.gray, and a width of 1.0. We're finally going to set a content padding, horizontal 10.0. So to resolve these errors, you are going to need a final string hint text, a final text input type, a final bool that is nullable, obscure text like that, and a final text editing controller like that. So for the keyboard type, is going to be replaced by the text input type like that. So going back to the sign-in screen, so here we need now to import the common text field. So the first one here, the hint text for the first one is going to be enter email. Like that. The text input type is going to be text input type.email address, and the controller, we are going to create it just now. So inside the state class, we are going to create the email editing controller. Also, we need to do the same for the password controller. So for the controller here, I'm going to set the email controller. And again, what we need to do here, we need to override the dispose method, and we need to dispose these controllers. .dispose, also the password controller .dispose, like that. So as you can see, now we have the email. So we need to do the same for the password, and we need to add a sized box here and give it a height of 10, like that. So this one is going to be enter password. This is going to be just normal, the default one, and we are going to set the obscure text to true. So I'm going to also add the sized box again here. This time I'm going to give it a height of 15. I'm going to create a checkbox here whose functionality I'm not going to implementing this in this tutorial, but once I implement this application to the fullest, I'm going to add the functionality for it as well. So I'll just go to add a row for now. So row has children. So the first child is the checkbox. So what I need to do is that at the top here, I'm going to create a Boolean variable. I'm going to call it bool is checked. I'm going to give it a value of false. So inside here, so this value is going to be the value of is checked, and then the onChange gives us a callback that gives us a nullable Boolean variable called value, and inside it, when we can call set state, since we are inside of a stateful widget, and then we can set the value of is checked to that of the value, and we can use the assertion operator here. After that checkbox, I can add a text here and give it a style of app styles dot normal text style, and I use test style instead of normal text style. I'm going to navigate there right now. It should be text style, not test style. So let me refactor this. I'm going to remain it to normal text style. Okay. So we have that. So once I have that, outside of the row, I can create another sized box. This sized box, I'm going to give it a height of 25. And then I can create a container. So this container is going to have a decoration of box decoration. So I'm going to give it a color of colors.orange, like that. And I'm going to give it a border radius of border radius dot circular 20.0. Need to give it a height, and the height that I'm going to give it is size config dot get proportionate height to 50. I'm also going to give it a width of size config dot screen width. Click on save. As you can see, now we have that. We need to add now the text, which we can add a child for that. And the text will have a text of sign me in. In the style that we are going to use is app style dot normal text style dot copy width. So we are going to give it a color of white, colors.white. So there it is. So to ensure that it is centered, we have to come to the container and add the property of alignment alignment.center. So since we are going to need this container to act as a button, I'm going to wrap it inside of another widget called inkwell. So this inkwell is going to provide us with an ontap method. So this ontap is what we are going to use to implement the login functionality. So what we want to implement next is the OR here, and then we are going to create the buttons here for Google, Apple, and Facebook. So to do that, after the inkwell, I'm going to add the sized box and I'm going to give it a height of 10. And after that, I'm going to create a row with children. So first one is going to be a container, which I'm going to give a height of size config dot get proportionate height of 1. I'm going to give it a width of size config dot screen width, multiply it by 0.4. Okay. And I'm going to give it a decoration of box decoration, and give it a color of colors.gray. So we get this gray line here. I'm going to then create another text here which says or style app styles dot normal text style, and here we can create a sized box with a width of 5, just to give a little spacing between this container and this text. And then I can add another container, that, and another sized box in there between to create that. So inside the row, we can add the main axis alignment of center. I'm going to add another sized box, and in there I'm going to add a row with children. So the first child is a container which has a height of size config dot get proportionate height of 40. It has a width of size config dot screen width, which I'm gonna multiply by 0.25 like that. I'm going to align everything in that container to center, and then I'm going to add a decoration, box decoration. I'm going to add a border radius dot circular 10. I'm going to add a border of border.on, color.black, colors.black, style, border style.solid, and I'm going to give it a width of 2. So for the child of this container, I'm going to use a font awesome icon. So for that, I'm going to add, it's font awesome Flutter, not font awesome icon. It's font awesome Flutter. So that package has been installed. So for the child, going to be font icon, font awesome icons .google like that. I'm giving a color of colors.red. So I'm going to copy this container and paste it 2 more times. So the second one is going to be for Apple, and the last one is going to be for Facebook, like that. Okay, like that. So I'm going to change for Facebook to blue. For Apple, I'm going to change it to black. So this column, this row, I'm going to change the main axis alignment to space evenly. So that should spread them out like that. So finally, we are going to add a size box here. And actually this container, I may have created it inside of inside the widgets here and just reused it, but I'm just going to leave it like this for now. I'm going to copy this. So outside this row, I'm going to add another sized box here, and I'm going to give it a height of say 40. And now here I'm going to create a text. Actually, I'm going to create a row with the children. So the first child is text, which says don't have an account, and a style of normal text style. So I'm just going to copy this text and paste it down here. So this one is going just to say register. So this is going to be normal text style dot copy width to add the extra functionalities. So I'm going to change the color to colors.green, like that. Okay, so inside this row, what we can do is that we can align them to in center. So main axis alignment dot center to ensure that they are centered like that. Okay, so what we need to do is that this text, the register text, need to be clickable, and to do that we can wrap it in a widget called gesture detector, and this gesture detector gives us an on tap method. So this on tap, I can use it to call context.goNamed. So since we have GoRouter, this is made possible by GoRouter. So what we need to do is that we need to go to the app routes dot we want to go to the register.name like that. So by clicking on this register, it's going to take us to the registration page. Right, and that was basically the login page. Of course, there are still functionality that we need to do, but before that, let us create the registration screen. So basically what I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy all this code here, open the register screen, and I'm going to paste it inside here like that. So it's also possible to use one screen for both registration and signing, which is perfectly okay. You can do that as well. Actually, I think that would be a better option than this one here, but yeah, I'm going to do this for this tutorial, but in future videos I shall be sure to separate them accordingly. So for this config, I'm just going to import that to remove those errors. This should say create your account, and I'm going to import this as well. I'm going to import the common text field. Down here, I'm going to import the font icon or some Flutter like that, and I'm also going to import Go Router here and the app routes. Something that I need to change is this text. So this one should say sign in. So once we click on this, we need to go to the sign in like that, and this should say already have an account. Already have an account, sign in. So this button should not say sign me in, it should say sign up. Oh, here it is. This should say register me now. Okay, so let me try to click on this register. As you can see, now we're directed to this page that says register me now and everything else here. Okay, so we are done with the UI for sign-in and registration. So what we need to do now is to implement the actual functionality for signing the user and signing them up. So first thing, before we forget, is that I need to go to the Firebase. So here, click on continue to console, and if you refresh this one, as you can see now we have this app. It has already been connected and it says 2 apps here. So I'm going to click on build, I'm going to click on authentication, I'm going to click on get started, and inside the sign-in method I'm going to enable email and password and click on save. And also inside the build again, I'm going to click on Firestore database. So inside of this database, I'm going to click on create database. So here, for the location, you should choose the one that is closest to you. For example, if you're in South Africa, you should choose Johannesburg. If you're in Japan, Tokyo. If you are in India, Mumbai. Seoul for South Korea, Singapore, Sydney, Australia, and Warsaw, Poland, etc. You get the point. I'm just going to leave mine to United States, and I'm going to click on next. So here I'm going to click on start in test mode, and I'm going to click on create. So once it's created like that, we can go to rules. So for now, I'm going to change these rules to allow read write if true. So I'm going to change it in future, but for now I'm just going to leave it true, and I'm going to publish that. So I'll go back to Android Studio. Now inside here, I want us to create now the functionality for logging in the user. Okay, so to do that, inside this authentication folder, we have this data. So inside this data, right click on it. I'm going to create a file here, which I'm going to call auth repository. So this is going to be class auth repository. Inside of this class, we need to implement some functionalities. Final Firebase auth, Firebase auth. I'm going to call it auth. and then I can create a constructor that takes the auth. So this dot auth, like that. So we can use now this auth variable to create the user and also to sign in the user. So let's first create the method to sign in the user with email and password that we collect using these text form fields. So the method is going to be a feature of type void, which we are going to call sign in with email and password, which is going to take named parameters as instead, which is going to take a required string email. Also is going to take a required string password. So it's going to be an async method. So inside of it, we are going to await underscore auth dot sign in with email and password, and we pass the email and the password like that. Okay, that is all that we need to do to sign in the user with email and password. We also need to create the user with email and password. So we are going to create another method of type void, which is called create user with email and password, which I'm going to use named parameters as well. So required string email, comma, required string password. So it's going to be an async method, and we are going to await auth dot create user with email and password, passing in the email and the password like that. Is that something else that we need to do is to get the current user. So we can use the user class that is provided by Firebase, but this user, remember, they can be null. So that's why we are using the question mark here. It's a nullable user. So this is going to be called get current user, like that. So what we want is to return an auth dot current user. Again, we need to create auth state changes. So a stream of type user. This is going to be called auth state changes. I'm going to return auth state changes. Finally, we need to create a sign out method, so which is going to be a feature of type void called sign out async. So we are going to await auth dot sign out, like that. So for those set changes, I forgot here to return. So we should return auth state changes, like that. What I need to do again is to create providers for this class, also for these auth state changes, and also for the current user, so that we can access them in other parts of the application. So to do that, I'm going to use the @Riverpod annotation here. I need to return the auth repository. So auth repository. So auth repository ref. So here I want to return the auth repository and pass the Firebase auth.instance. So to solve this error, first of all, the Riverpod, I need to import the Riverpod annotation, and up here I need to add the part auth repository .g.dat. Okay, now with that I can open the terminal, and inside here I can run run build runner build and click on enter. So this one should run and is going to create the file with the provider required by this file to eliminate these errors as well. So the file has been created successfully. So something else that we need to create, of course, is the provider to get the current user and also for the auth state changes for the current user and for the auth state changes. So I can say at Riverpod string user auth state changes ref. So here we can create final auth repository equals to ref.watch auth repository provider. And remember, this provider has been created and is inside this G file that has just been generated. So here we want to return auth repository.auth state changes. So basically it's this method here, like that. So finally I need to create a provider for the current user. So I'm going to use at Riverpod, and I want to get the user. So this is the current user ref. So final auth repository equals to ref.watch auth repository provider. Then we want to return auth repository dot current user. Okay, to solve these errors, we can again open this and we are going to run that. So as you can see, it has completed and it has added these other providers inside of this G file. Something that I can do is that since we need to constantly keep looking at this, we can add Riverpod keep alive to true for all of these methods here, like that. So before we can use this inside these widget classes, we need to remember that we need to update the state and show a loading indicator or an error when such an event occurs. So to do that, I'm going to go to the presentation file right now, and I'm going to create yet another folder which I'm going to call controllers. So inside of these controllers, now this is where we are going to create the code that is going to update the UI accordingly. So I'm going to call this auth controller, and so this class auth controller is going to extend async notifier of type void. Okay, and it's going to ask us to override, and we are going to add that. And for now, we don't have anything that we need to do inside this build method. Okay, so what we need to do here now is that we are going to create a future of type void. So this method is going to now update the state when we are signing or creating a user. So for creating a user, so we are going to call it create user with email and password. So this one is going to have required string email, also required string password. So it's a future, so we can add async, and then inside here we can update the state. So state equals to const async loading. So this is going to update the state to loading state, and then we can update the state again. So state is equals to async value dot guard. So this guard has if you go to implementation, it has a try and catch, so it's going to work on error handling for us. Inside of this guard, it gives us a closure. We are going to use ref.read. So what we want now is we want to read the auth repository provider dot create user with email and password, and we pass the email and the password like that. Again, here this state we need to await it like that. Okay, so when we are creating the user with email and password using our repository, we are going to update the state to loading, and then we are going to to change the state to error or data once this method is called. All right, so we also need to create another method for now signing our user, which is of type future void. So future of type void. So this is going to be called sign in with email and password. Going to be required string email and required string password. I'm going to add an async there. So again, here we need to update the state to const async loading like that, and then we update the state again. So state equals to await async value dot guard like that. This gives us a closure. Ref dot read the auth repository provider, and then we call sign in with email and password, passing in the email and the password like that. We could do the same for logout as well. And so let me create this method here called sign out. It's an async method. We update the state, and then we update the state once again. So is equals to await async value dot guard ref dot read auth repository provider dot sign out like that. To have the provider created for us automatically, we are going to add part auth controller dot g dot dat like that. Riverpod keep alive and set it to true, and then here we can use a $sign like that auth controller. I can go to the terminal and run that again, and that should create the G file here and solve all these errors. Alright, so as you can see with that, we have solved those errors, and this auth controller.g.dat file has been created successfully. Okay, now we are ready to use these classes in our registration screen and sign-in screen. So let's go back to sign-in screen. So inside this sign-in screen, as you can see, inside this the container that has this sign-in text, we have this on top. So what should happen here is that when this button is clicked, we should trigger this method and then use our controller to sign in the user. So for that, I'm going to create a method at the top here, which I'm going to call validate details. So I'm going to call void validate details. So first of all, we're going to extract the email. So string email is equals to email editing controller dot text dot trim, and I'm also going to extract the password. So like that. So we can create a simple validation here that says if email dot is empty or password dot is empty. So if that is true, we can show a snack bar, and we can show a snack bar using the scaffold messenger. So scaffold messenger dot of context dot show snack bar. This one needs a snack bar here. Okay, so the content is a text. We can have a text that says ensure all details are filled, something like that, and we can give it a style of app styles normal text style dot copy with, and give it a color of colors dot red. So this method, I can make it private like that, and I want to call it inside here, so I'm going to call it here validate details like that. So that way we can now save this file and have that reformatting. So I want this to have a duration of duration of 2 seconds. So if all the details are filled, so here you can call ref.read, call the aub controller provider .notifier .sign in with email and password, passing in the email and the password like that. So now we need to handle the loading state. So to handle the loading state, inside the build method here, we can say final state equals to ref.watch aub controller provider. So we can go to our button here. We can say if state.is loading, we can show a const circular progress indicator like that. Else we show the text that says sign me in. All right. So we've checked the loading state. So finally, what we need to check is the error state. And for that, we can use ref.listen. Okay. So this listen, we want to listen to the auth controller provider. Okay. And this listener gives us the previous state, which we're not going to use, and the current state. And then inside this body, we can show the widget that we want when an error occurs. So this listen is sync value, is of type async value like that. So we are going to create a widget that is called whenever an error occurs. What I suggest we do is that we are going to create, I'm going to add another folder which I'm going to call common widget. Inside this folder, I'm going to create this file which is called async value UI. Something like that should work. Actually, an extension method, async value UI on async value. So inside here, we are going to create a method show alert dialog on error, which is going to take a build context. So if it's loading, so if it's not loading and has error, so we are going to show dialog so context, we pass the context, and the builder, this one, as you can see, it needs it takes a build context and returns a widget. So we pass the context here and returns a widget, and the widget that we want is an alert dialog. Let me add a semicolon at the end. So the alert dialog, first of all, I'm going to show an icon. So icons.error like that. I'm going to give it a color of colors.red. I'm going to give it a size of 40 like that. And I'm going to make it a const icon. So title is going to be of type text. And I'm going to be an error, which I give you a style of app styles .normal text style. And actions is going to be a row, which I'm going to set the main axis alignment .center. And children, so the first child is an elevated button, each has an unpressed. So if this one is pressed, I'm going to just close the dialog and .pop like that. Child of text, which says close, like that, and can give it a style of app styles dot normal text style. Remove the const here to emit that error, like that. So we might get an error that is Firebase related, and in that situation we need to show an appropriate error for that. So we can create a method here called error message, which is an object, nullable object called error. So if error is Firebase auth exception, I'm going to return error.message, error.toString. Else, I'm going to return error.toString, like that. Here, I'm gonna create the variable message here, which should be error message, and pass error like that. And here, instead of error, I'm going to pass the message like that. Once that is done, you can go back to the sign-in screen. This one should be state.show alert dialog on error, and then we pass the context here, like that. So that way we are going to handle the error state. So in case we get an error, we should get this show alert dialog on error, giving us the exact error that happened. So with that, let me try and run the application and see if everything is working as expected. Okay, so right now I can try to click on the sign in. So once I do that, as you can see, we get this snack bar, and that is because of this validation that we did here. So I'm gonna try to sign in a user here. Okay, so I'm gonna type willy@gmail.com, and I'm going again here. I made a mistake here, and to solve that, I need to go to the code and change the controller. So the controller that I used here for the password should be the password controller, should not be the email controller. And before I forget, I should then go to registration screen, and I should change there as well. So for the password, we should use the password controller. So let me try and add some password here. As you can see, we have that loading state, but since it has failed, we get this alert dialog telling us that we have that particular error, and you can click on close to close that. So since we don't have an account, we should go to the registration page and try to register a user. So I'm just going to open the registration page. So inside this register screen, basically we should do the same thing as we did in the sign-in page. So I'm just going to go to the sign-in page, and I'm going to copy this validate code here. Okay, I'm going to paste it inside here. So I'm going to import this, but here instead of sign in, I'm going to call create with email and password, and pass the email and the password that is collected. Okay, so then I'm going to call that method called validate details and update the state. So again, I'm going to go to the sign-in screen and copy this state, and I'm going back to the registration page, and I'm going to paste them here. Again, I'm going to import this like that. This extension method. Again, inside here, inside this container, I'm going to check the state. If state.isLoading, I'm going to show a const circular progress indicator, else show that text like that. Okay, so that should work as expected. So let me open the Firebase and go to Authentication, and let me now try to create a user. So inside here, I'm going to add an email. So I'm going to add willy@gmail.com, and I'm going to add a password. So once that is done, I'm going to create on register me now. So as you can see, it has registered me successfully. And if I go to the authentication and refresh this page, as you can see now, we have a user that has been registered. And GoRouter is powerful because we did not need to tell it to navigate the user to the main screen. Due to this part here, it has detected that we have already been logged in. And since we were in the registration page, we have just been directed to the main screen directly. So let me go to the main screen. So the main screen is inside the task management. I'm going to go to the presentation screens and the main screen. So inside here, I'm going to create a small logout button so that we can test the sign-in functionality called sign out. Okay, so inside this, I can call ref.read, but I cannot do that because we need to convert this to a consumer stateful widget so that we can use the ref consumer stateful widget. Then I can import Riverpod. So inside here, I can call ref.read. I can go to our aub controller provider.notifier.signout. So when I click on the sign out, actually I get an error, but that is because I need to hot restart it. So once the application is hot restarted, I can click on sign out again. And automatically that should direct me to the sign-in page. So we are done with the authentication. So I'm going to convert this back to a stateful widget. So let me try to sign in because I have already created the account with willy@gmail.com, and I'm going to add the password and click on sign me in. So that directs me to the main page. So the main screen is going to be like the one that is holding the other screens, and it's also going to be the screen with the bottom navigation bar. It extends state, and we need to add a mixin with the with keyword, and the mixin that we want to extend is the single ticker provider state mixin. So we are then going to add a controller here, so a tab controller, and to get the index that we are already at, we are going to need a variable to manage that, which I'm going to call current index. It is originally going to be at 0, that is the first element of the bottom navigation bar. So we need to initialize this tab controller, and I'm going to use init state for that. So inside here, call tab controller equals to tab controller. So we are going to have five tabs in the bottom navigation bar, and for the vsync you just set it to this like that. Finally, we need to dispose this tab controller, and for all the controllers we need to dispose them. So here we are going to call tab controller.dispose like that. Fantastic. Right, so inside the build method, we need to update the index of the tab controller. So we can say tab controller.index equals to the current index like that. Our main screen is not going to have an up bar, and inside the body we can remove this button that I had created earlier. We are going to have a tab bar view. The tab bar view, it needs a controller, which we already have, the tab controller, and it needs children. Inside the scaffold, we are going to add the bottom navigation bar, which is the bottom navigation bar. So the bottom navigation bar needs items that we are going to add. It also needs the current index. So the current index is the current index, but most importantly, it has an on tap which has a callback, and inside that callback, we can use set state to update the value of the current index. So this on tap, it has a value. Okay, so we can say current index equals to that value, like that. We can add the icon size of 20.0. We can also add an elevation of 5.0, like that. Also, we can add the type to bottom navigation bar fixed, and this is going to ensure that we have a fixed navigation bar at the bottom here without fluctuating the sizes of the icons, etc. So this is version navigation bar type dot fixed. Before maybe we add the items, I can create these screens. The account screen is going to go to the authentication file. So inside the authentication, I'm going to create another screen, and it's going to be a consumer widget account screen. So it's going to return a scaffold. At the moment, I can just have a body, have a center widget with a child of text by account, like that. And then I can import Riverpod like that. Let me close that and import this. Okay, let me now add these other screens. So let me close this folder, authentication folder, and let me go to the task management. Inside the screens, I'm going to let me add this other screen. So don't worry about these errors, is because we have not hot reset the application, and also because we have not added the items for our bottom navigation bar item. So the first item that you are going to add is bottom navigation bar item. So icon should be icons.home outlined. Label should be home. The active icon should be icons.home. This is also going to be a const list. So I'm going to copy this format 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So with that, we can try to hot restart the application. We can go to all tasks screen. In this all tasks screen, we are going to use it to load all the tasks that this specific user has created. So I think it makes more sense to go first to the create task, to the add task screen, so that we can create the task, and then we are going to load them here afterwards. So let me go to the add task screen. So inside the add task screen, we are going to design it first. First, we are going to have an app bar. We are going to give it a title of text. the title is going to say create task, like that. And we are going to give it a style of title text style, of app style dot title text style, and I'm going to use today copy with color colors.white. So if you go to the add task screen, let me initialize size config dot init. So after the app bar, we're going to have a body. So this body is a column. We're going to have a column here, children. So for that, I'm going to create a new widget, which I'm going to call title description. Going to have a title and a description. Okay, it's quite a terrible name actually, but I think for cases it's going to work. For here, we're going to create a stateless widget called title description, and I'm going to import material.dat. Import material.dat string title, final icon data, prefix icon, final string int text, final int max lines, text editing controller. So inside the build method, we are going to use our size config, and I think it will be nice to initialize it here. Here we are going to return a column with children. We are going to set the cross-axis alignment of this column to start, so that all of them can start here from this side. And then the first child of this column is going to be a text. The text is the title, like that, and a style of app styles dot heading text style. We are going to edit it, so we are going to use copy with. So we are going to change the font size to 18. Then after that text, we are going to add a sized box with a height of 10. And then we are going to create a text form field here. So it's going to have a controller of controller. Going to have a decoration, input decoration of a hint text, field to true, fill color of colors.gray, prefix icon, going to be icon, pass the prefix icon, sorry, border, outline, input border, border radius dot circular 15.0. So again here we now need to add these parameters here to eliminate the error, like that. So now we need to use that widget inside of the add task screen. We are going to add title description. So the first title is a string, so task title. The prefix icon will be icons.notes. Hint text should be enter task title, max line of 1. The controller, I'm just going to create it here, final title controller is equals to text editing controller. You're also gonna create another one right now, which is description controller equals to text editing controller, and we are going to dispose these ones. So this one I'm going to set it to title controller, like that. After that, we are going to set, we put a comma there. As you can see, now we get that. We are going to create a sized box with a height of size config dot get proportionate height of 10, and then we can create yet another one here which I'm going to call task description, like that. Enter task description, that this one is going to be description controller. We can give this of 3, like that. So to give some space here, we need to wrap this column with a padding widget. So wrap it with padding. So this is going to be edge inserts dot from LTRB. We are going to give you a top of 10, a left of 10, top of 20, a right of 10, and also a bottom of 10. So that way we get that nice space around them, like that. So what we need to do now is to add the priority. So we're going to add the text priority, and then we are going to create containers with the different priorities. So for that, we are going to add another sized box here and get a proportionate height. I'm going to set this of 20. I'm going to add a row. To add a row with children. So the first child will be a text. So text that says priority. I'm going to give it a style of app styles dot. So this one is a bit bigger. So I'm going to give it of heading text style. So dot copy width, font size of size config dot get proportionate height of 18. So for priorities, we have 3 different priorities, and those priorities I'm going to put them inside of a list. Okay, so I'm going to put them inside of a list to show you just another method that you can use to display some items that are in a list inside of widgets of the application. So I'm going to create a list of type string, and I'm going to call them priorities, like that. So the priorities, we have 3 priorities. That is low, medium, and high. So we also need to know the priority that have been selected. So selected priority, and at the moment I'm going to set it to a value of 0. After the text, what we need to do to display those that list of strings is a list view builder. I'm going to create a list view builder, and a list view would also do as well, because this is just a small list. And since we are inside of a row, so having a list view builder will cause the application to crash. So because of that, we need to wrap the list view builder inside of another widget. The widget itself is a sized box that we can constrain the width of this list view builder. So this sized box, I can give it a height of size config dot get proportionate height of 40, and this sized box, I can give it I can wrap it inside of an expanded, so that it can take the remaining space after the text has been rendered. So the list view builder gives this the item builder, and if you hover over it, as you can see, it takes a build context and an integer, and returns a widget. So we're going to pass the context and an index, so it's going to return a widget here. So item builder also takes a item count. So the item count is priorities dot length, so the length of that list, and we need to add a scroll direction to axis dot horizontal, like that. So here we can get a priority. So priority equals to priorities and the current index, like that. We are going to return a container, but you need to listen to the on tap click listener of that container. Therefore, I'm going to place it inside of a gesture detector, and I'm going to implement this on tap method a bit later. So this gesture detector has a child. So this child is now the container that you are going to design to display each and every priority. So this gesture detector, we want to use it to update selected container. We can say selected priority equals to the current index. Alright, so the container, it has a margin. We're going to set a margin. So margin is edge insets dot only. We're going to set the left margin. So size config dot get proportionate width, and a padding edge insets dot all size config dot get proportionate height of 10. I'm going to align everything in the containers to center, and I'm going to add a decoration of box decoration, border radius dot circular 10.0. So I'm going to set the color. The color, I'm going to set it conditionally. So if selected priority equals to the index, so if this item is the one that is selected, so when it is selected, we want to show the color of green. Else, we're going to show gray color, gray, like that. So the child of a container is going to be text. So the text itself is going to be the priority. The style is going to be app styles dot normal text style dot copy width. So if selected priority equals to the selected index, the color you want to be white. Else, we want the color to be black. Colors dot black, like that. And I'm going to set the font size to 20.0 to ensure that when I tap on this it changes. So I'm going to use set state. We can update the selected priority like that. So when I save and tap on this, as you can see, it now changes. So finally, I need now to create a button here that I'm going to now use to save that data to Firebase Firestore. So after this row, I'm going to add a sized box, and I'm going to add a container. So inside of this container, I'm going to start alignment of center. I'm going to give it a height of size config dot get proportionate height. Give it a height of 50. I'm going to give it a width of size config dot screen width. I'm going to give it a decoration of box decoration, colors dot deep orange, and a border radius of border radius dot circular 20. So there it is. So I'm going to add a child. So the child is a row with children. So I want us to center everything in the row. So I'm going to add a main axis alignment. Main axis alignment dot center. So inside the row, first we're going to have a icon. Icons dot add colors dot white, and give it an icon size of 30. Then we're going to have a text that says add task, like that, which has a style of app styles dot normal text style dot copy width, color of colors dot white, a font size of 20. Yeah, like that. So you can see it's similar to the one that I had created earlier. Yeah, and that will do. So since we are going to want this container to be clickable, I'm going to wrap this container inside of an inkwell. And so I'm going to use an on tap method here. So we are going to implement this later after we have created the repository for adding data to Firebase Firestore. Right, so before we continue from here, I'm going to go to the data, and here I'm going to create a new file. So the file that I'm going to create here is Firestore repository, and here I'm going to define the method and functionality of adding a task to the Firebase Firestore, editing it, deleting it, and all those stuff. Class Firestore repository, and here we are going to create a final variable Firebase Firestore, which I will call Firestore, like that, constructor like that. So inside here I need to create a method for adding a task. So it's going to be a future of type void, which is going to be called add task. This is going to be to have a required task, required stream user ID, and it's going to be an async method. Right, so we need to create a task. So this task is a model class, and model classes goes in the domain. So inside this task management folder, we can go to domain, and we are going to create a new file called task. And in here, we are going to create a class task. So this task has a final string ID. Okay, so I'm going to generate. What I want to create is the data class section. I'm going to select all of this and click on OK. Let me remove this quickly. So by doing that, it has created the equality to string, copy with, to map, and from map. And this is possible because of an extension that I have installed inside of my Android Studio, and is a plugin rather, not an extension. There's this plugin called that data class. Now here we want to save that particular task to Firestore. So you can await firestore.collection. So the collection that we want to save to is users.doc user ID.collection tasks.add. Want to add task.to map, like that. So this is going to save that particular task to the Firestore inside the users collection, under the user ID, and under the tasks collection. So, but if you want to save the ID of this task inside of the task itself, we can assign this to a docref, and then we can say await docref.update. So we can update. So this one takes a map, and we can use curly braces for that. So we can update the ID with docref.id, like that. And with that, we are done with the add task method. Let me click on save, like that. So we also need to create update task method. So for update task method is going to be a feature of that void as well. And I'm going to call this method update tasks as required task, required task ID, and required string user ID, and this is string task ID. So it's an async. So we are going to await firestore.collection. So the collection is users.doc user ID.collection. So the collection is tasks.doc task ID.update. We update it with the new task to map. So with that method, we are going to update a particular task using the task ID and the user ID. Alright, so the next thing that we need to do is the load these tasks from Firebase. So we are going to create a method for that. So the method for that is going to be a stream of a list of tasks, right? And I'm going to call it load tasks. And we are going to load task of a particular user. So we are going to pass string user ID like that. And in return, we are going to return Firebase Firestore dot instance dot collection. So is the user's collection dot doc, the user ID dot collection. The collection is tasks, and then we want to have the latest task that has been added to be the first one to appear, and then it goes like that. So for that we can use order by. So we can say order by date, okay, and then we can say descending order by date, descending true, with that, and send dot snapshots. So for the map we get a query snapshot, and then we return query snapshot dot docs dot map document, and then return task dot from map doc dot data dot to list. Right, so we need to load, we need now to create another method for loading tasks that are complete. So I'm going to copy this method here. I'm going to paste it at the bottom here. So here I want us to load completed tasks. So load completed tasks. We are still going to pass the user ID, but here, so here instead of order by, we are going to use where the field that we want to use is complete, and say is equal to true. So this is going to filter those that are complete. All right. Again, we want to load by those that are incomplete. So we are going to load incompleted tasks. This we are going to change this value to false to load the tasks that are incomplete. Finally, we want to delete a task. I'm going to create a method for that. So which is a future of type void is called delete task required string user ID, also a required string task ID async. We are going to await Firestore dot collection. So the collection is users dot doc user ID dot collection. So the collection is tasks dot doc the task ID, and then dot delete like that. So that is going to delete the task by the task ID. Okay, so finally, as you remember, we want a situation where we can add a task as complete. So when we tap on the checkbox, we want to set it as complete. So we can do that as well. So I'm going to create a method for that as well. So and that method is going to be called future. We're going to return a future of type void called update task completion. So this is going to take required string user ID. Also is going to take string task ID, and also is going to take a required string, a required boolean, sorry, is complete. So we're going to like that. So this is a synchronous operation. I'm going to let me copy this. So we are going to await Firestore collection users user ID task ID dot update. What we want to update, it needs a map, so we pass curly braces here. Update the is complete with the value of is complete here, like that. So this is going to update the task when we hit the checkbox. So finally, what we need to do here is to create providers for these methods. But first of all, we need to create provider for this particular repository. So I'm going to use Riverpod, keep alive to true, Firestore repository, Firestore repository, Firestore repository ref. So here we're going to return Firebase repository, passing Firebase Firestore dot instance, like that. So here we can import the Riverpod annotation package. We also need a provider for loading the tasks. So it's going to be a stream that yields a list of tasks called load tasks. Load tasks ref. So we need a Firestore repository. Firestore repository equals to ref.watch Firestore repository provider, and then we return Firestore repository dot load tasks. So here, since this is a family, we are going to pass string user ID, and then this user ID is the one that we pass inside of here. So let me first run this build runner again to get those providers created for me and the G file created. I'm sorry for that. I have a bad cold, terrible cold. I forgot to add the G file here to add the part. So part Firestore repository .g .dat. So with that, I can try to run this again, and should now create the files that I need. We also need to create a provider for loading completed tasks and also incompleted tasks. So let me run the build runner again. So, and with that, we have our providers already created, and the G file has been created. So before I use this, I'm going to create the controller real quick. So I'm just going to inside this task management, inside this presentation, I'm going to create the controller for this. Let me call it Firestore instead. Firestore controller. Firestore controller extends a sync notifier of type void. So this is going to tell me to override the missing method, and I'm going to delete this one because I don't really need it. So inside here, I'm going to create a method for creating a task, deleting one, and also updating a task. So let's get to it. So future void add task, So required task, required string user ID, async. So here, first of all, we update the state. So state is equals to const async loading. And then we import this task here. And then final Firestore repository equals to ref.read Firestore repository provider state equals to await async value dot guard. So this one gives us a closure. So it returns Firebase repository dot add task, and we pass the task and the user ID. So with that, we are going to update the state to loading, error, or data with that particular method. So we also need to create a method for updating the task. So it is going to take the task. It's going to also require string user ID, and also going to require string task ID, like that. So an async method. So here we are going to update the state to const async loading, like that. I'm also going to access the repository with the provider, and then I can change the state to await async value dot guard to Firestore repository update task, passing the task, the user ID, and the task ID. Finally, I want to create the method for deleting the task, and for that I'm going to create yet another method that returns a feature of type void, which I'm going to call delete task. So it has string user ID, and it's going to take a string task ID, like that. So it's an async method. Again, we are going to update the state to const async loading. Then I'm going to access the repository like I did here, and then I'm going to update the state to await async value dot guard. So this gives us a closure, and in return we say Firestore repository dot delete task, passing the user ID and the task ID, like that. So with that, now we have a controller to update the state of our screens, and we have a repository. So this repository, we can use it to add a task. Okay, we add the task to Firebase Firestore. We update a particular task. We load the tasks. We load completed tasks. We load incompleted tasks. We can delete a task, and we can update task completion. So all of this we perform in the repository. So now we are ready to use them inside of our widget. And the first place that you want to go is inside this button here. So let me open this add task button. So inside this add tasks, remember we had this on tap method here. We can first of all verify that the task has a title, has a description, and then we can do that. Or alternatively, just for the sake of this video, you can refer to what I did in the registration page. But here I'm just going to go directly and just add the task to the Firestore. So I'm going to just, first of all, I'm going to get the title. So the title is title controller dot text dot trim, and I'm also gonna get the description. So the description is equals to description controller dot text dot trim. So you also need the priority, so string priority equals to the priorities at the selected priority, like that. So we can also get the date, so string date equals to datetime dot now, and then we convert this to string. So we can now say final my task equals to task, and this ID and also this bool, we can set them such that we can have default values. Okay, so like if I go to this task, for example, I want the ID, this dot ID, I want it to be an empty string first, but it is going to be updated later, and this is complete. I need it to be false by default, because when you create a task first, it is incomplete by default. Okay, so inside here, so we don't have to set the ID manually, and we also don't have to set this one. Okay, so we can just have it like that. So this controller, I forgot I should have added a provider for it. So to do that, I can change this from async value of type void, and I can change this to $$ Firestore controller. And then so here I can add Riverpod, and then with that I can add part Firestore controller .g .dat, like that. So with that, now I can run the build runner again. Sometimes a person forgets, but you should always get back and do whatever it is necessary. We can now use ref.read Firestore controller provider .notifier .add task. So the task here is my task, and the user ID, so we can get the user ID by accessing the current user provider. For that, let us go at the top here, final user ID is equals to ref.watch current user provider .uid, and we can use the assertion operator here, because if we are in this screen, then we have to be logged in and the user is not null, because if the user was null, then you would not have been allowed to be in this screen in the first place. We can also create state, so final state is equals to ref.watch Firestore controller provider, like that. Then we can use ref.listen async value, here we are going to listen to the Firestore controller provider. This listener gives us a previous state and the new state. So state dot show alert dialog on error, and then you can pass context. So in case there is an error, we are going to show that error. And when we try to create a task here, we get an error, we are going to get that alert dialog. So now we can use this user ID at the bottom here. So you pass that user ID here, okay, like that. And then this container, we can update the text now. So this child is a row, but if state dot is loading, we want to show a const circular progress indicator. else we show a row that has the add icon and text. So since we had already defined the rules in the Firestore, if I can come here again, here we had already defined the rules that anyone can read and write the data. So let me try to add data to Firestore. Let me select the priority and let me click on add task and see if it is going to work. So let me refresh this one. So as we can see, our task has been added successfully. So we have users, this is the user ID, and this is the tasks. So we have this task that has been created here. And as you can see, we have the date, we have the description. The ID of this task, as you can see, is similar to this one. Is complete, is false, the priority, and also the title of the task. Fantastic. So since we have that, now we can work on retrieving these tasks from Firestore to our application. So to do that, now we can go to home or all tasks screen. So let me open the all tasks screen. First of all, I'm just going to change this and I'm going to add an app bar. So app bar, I'm going to give it a title of my tasks and give it a style of app styles title textile dot copy with colors dot white. So since we have that, now we can create the body. I'm going to go to common widgets and I'm going to create a file called async value widget. So this is going to be a stateless widget. I'm going to call it async value widget, which is a generic type of type T. And then I'm going to import material.dat. I want to import material.dat instead. So import material.dat because I'm running this on Android. So final async value of type T value, and then final widget data. Then I do the necessary here to remove that error. I'm going to remove this one. Fantastic. We're going to return value dot when. So this one gives a data error and loading. So in case of loading, we get a closure and we are going to return a circular progress indicator that is at the center. So I'm going to wrap this with center and add const. In case of an error, we get an error on the stack trace, and then we return a center widget with a child of text error.toStream. And data, we pass data. Let us remove this return here. And we are done with our async value widget. So I'm going to close that. So back to all tasks screen. So our body is going to be the async value widget, which is going to be of type list of task. So the value is going to be the tasks that we load. So for that, inside this build method, we are going to create a variable. I'm going to call it tasks async value. On this will be ref.watch load tasks provider, and this is a family. So for that, we need to get the user ID first. So final user ID is equals to ref.watch current user provider dot UID. Again, this is we are pretty sure that this is going to be they're going to be a user, and therefore we can use that assertion operator over there like that. And in case there is an error, we can use ref.listen again, and this is going to be a sync value here. We are listening to the load tasks provider, and this will give us the previous state and the new state. And this of course is a family, so we need to pass the user ID there. So here we need to say state dot show alert on error, and then we pass the context. like that. Fantastic. So here the task async value will be the value here, and data will be the particular tasks. Return. So if tasks dot is empty, so if the tasks are empty, we are going to return a const center widget with a child of text that reads no tasks yet, like that. Else we want to list view dot separated. So the item builder, this gives us a context and an index, and we can get a task, getting the tasks at the current index, like that. And for each and every task, we are going to return a task item. So this is a widget that I'm going to create, and this is going to take a task. Okay, so for the separator builder, this one takes a context and it takes a height. I'm going to return a const divider with a height. I'm going to give you a height of 2 and a color, colors.blue, like that. So finally the items count, the tasks dot length, like that. So I need to import this task like that. So I need to now to create this task item. So this one should go to inside the task management, inside the widgets. I'm going to create the task item like that. And it is in this task item that we are going to delete the task, update the task, and do those kinds of operations. So this is going to be a consumer stateful widget, which I'm going to call task item. So I'm going to import Flutter Riverpod, and I'm also going to import material.dat, like that. So this task is going to take a task, which I call task, like that, and add it in the constructor here. So inside this build method, let us quickly initialize size config here, because we are going to use it, and then we are going to return a container, and this container has a margin, and this margin is of const edge insets dot all 10, and a padding of const edge of all 10 as well, and a decoration box decoration, border radius dot circular, also has a color of colors.black. So inside of this container we have a child, which is a row, and the row has children, which are all columns with different children. So I'm going to put these columns inside of expanded widgets. These as well, with another widget, the expanded widget. So the first column, the first child is the text. The text is widget.task.title. Style is app styles dot heading textile dot copy width. Font size of 18, color of colors.white. So after that we have a size box with a height of size config dot get proportionate height of 10, and then we can create a text. So this text is going to be widget dot task dot description. Style will be upstyle dot normal textile dot copy width. Color colors.white, like that. Also going to have a max lines of 2, and it's going to have an overflow of ellipses, like that. Again, we are going to have another sized box here. This time we give this 20, and here now we are going to create a row with children. So the first child is a container, which has an alignment of center, a padding of const edge insets dot all of 5. It has a height of size config dot get proportionate height of 40, and it has a decoration, a box decoration, colors dot deep orange, border radius dot circular 10, the child, which is a text, and the text itself widget dot task dot priority dot to uppercase, like that. Style app styles dot normal text style dot copy with colors dot white, like that. We are going to copy this container, but before that, let me add a size box here, and I'm going to give it a width of 20, and then I'm gonna copy this container, and then I'm gonna paste it here. So in the alt task screen, I can try to add that and save. As you can see, we are loading that. So the color of this, we can set it to green. I can change this to width. So here the child is not going to be a text, but rather a row. So the first element of that row is going to be an icon, which is going to be icons.calendar month. I'm going to give a color of colors.black, and I'm going to give it a size of 20, like that. The text for this one is going to be the calendar, the date, sorry. It's not going to be priority, but the date. So for that, we need to find a way to convert this date. If we go to Firebase, as you can see, the date is quite a large string. So we want to find a way to convert it to a smaller string. So to do that, if you can remember at the beginning of this video, we imported the intel package. So, and we are going to use the intel package to be able to convert our particular string. All right, so to do that, at the top of this file, I'm going to create a simple method that takes a string and then converts it to a good format. So let me just create it here. So I'm going to call it formatted date. So it's going to take a string date, and it's a string date because in the definition of this task we save the date as a string, and that is the date that we are going to pass into this method so that it can be converted. So here we can have a date time equals to date time dot pass the date, and then we can have string formatted date is equals to date format. So we can have the day, then the month and the year dot format the date time, and then we can return the formatted date. So this date format is going to come from the intel package. So let me import the intel package like that. As you can see now, this error has gone. So let's scroll down here. So this text, what we need to pass here is formatted date, and then we can pass widget dot task dot date, and that is going to get us what we need. So if I can save that, we get some overflow here, but as you can see, we get the correct formatted date here. Let's change this to a smaller value, like 10 for example. Yeah. So to arrange this, to have them start at the beginning, we just have to come to the column and then set the cross-axis alignment to start. So with that, you can be sure that the task title and the description start from this end. Okay, so we now need to create the next column with the checkbox, the edit, and also the delete, as I showed you in the demo application. So here, so that will go in this column. So, and now we want to push the elements in this column to the very end. So in this column, I'm going to add the cross-axis alignment to the end. So that will ensure that they are pushed to the very end of the screen. So here we are going to create a checkbox. So let me create a checkbox. So the value of the checkbox is going to be that of the widget.task.isComplete. So for the unchanged, this one gives a nullable bool value. And then, so if the value is null, then we return. Else, when the checkbox is tapped, we want to update the value of this checkbox in the database. And for that, first of all, you are going to need the user ID. Final user ID equals to ref.watch. I'm going to watch the current user provider.uid like that. And then we can say ref.read Firestore repository provider.update task completion. So we pass the user ID, we pass the task ID, and the task ID is the widget.task.id like that. And then is complete. Now we pass the value that we get here, since it is not null in the else case. Fantastic. So as you can see, this checkbox is quite small. To enlarge it a little bit, we can wrap it inside of another widget, and this widget is called transform.scale. And then here we can add the scale to a value like 1.8. So if I save that, as you can see, the checkbox has grown bigger. All right. So since we have added this checkbox, and we have, you can see here the isComplete is false, but when I check this, as you can see, it updates to true, and when I uncheck it, it updates to false. So that is the power of what we did inside this task completion. So we use the user ID, the task ID, and isComplete, and then we use the update to update this key with the new value. That is what is happening here. Okay, so what we need now to create is the edit and also the delete boxes. So after this checkbox, I can create a container here. This container is going to have a height of size config dot get proportionate height 40. Is going to have a padding of const edge insets all 5, and it's going to have a decoration of box decoration, a color of colors.green. It's going to have a shape of box shape.circle. So if I can save it, as you can see, it appears here. I need to give it a child. So the child is going to be a const icon. So the icon is going to be icons.edit. The color is going to be colors.white, and the size is going to be 30.0. We're going to save that. So we have that, and it is properly aligned where we want it. Let me add the final container, and this container is going to be a delete button. So I'm going to this to delete, and I'm going to leave this color of red. All right, so this is fantastic. As you can see, we created the delete, the edit, and of course the checkbox. Okay, so for the delete task, so we want this to be tappable. So I'm going to wrap this icon, or rather I'm going to wrap this entire container inside of a widget. I'm going to tap to place it inside of a gesture detector, and I'm going to implement the method that is triggered when we tap on here, and also going to do the same for this other widget. So I'm going to wrap it in another widget, and the widget itself is the gesture detector. Again, you can use an inkwell if you wish. So I'm going to add on tap here. Fantastic. So with that, I'm going to scroll at the top here. This functionality can be exported to another file, but just for simplicity, I'm just going to place it here inside this state class. I'm going to create a method void delete task. I'm going to pass string task ID, and inside it we need to get the user ID, because remember, when we're deleting it we need to get the user ID. So user ID is equals to ref.watch current user provider .uid, like that. So we are going to show dialog. This gives a context and a builder. So the builder context and returns what we want to return is an alert dialog. Fantastic. So let me put a semicolon over there. So the alert dialog first of all has a title. The title is a text that says, "Are you sure?" So, and it has a style, and the style is app styles dot title text style, like that. It has an icon. So icons dot delete. I'm going to give it a color size of 30, or maybe let me give it a bigger size like 60, and I'm going to give it a color of colors.red, like that. So it is a const icon, and I'm going to ensure that everything is aligned to the center. Also, I'm going to set the content. So the content for this is going to be a text that says tap to delete the task, like that. So I'm going to finally set the actions, and the actions that I'm going to set here are elevated buttons. So this one is going to be context.pop to pop it out, like that. And the child is text, which says cancel with a style of app styles.normal style, like that. So the other one is an elevated button as well, but says delete. So inside the on pressed, we are going to change this to a sync. Then you are going to await ref.read firestore controller provider .notifier .delete task, pass the user ID and the task ID, like that. So I'm going to pass this method to the delete container here. Let me just put it inside of the anonymous function, like that. So with that, we can be able to delete this. As you can see, when I tap on it, you should give me an alert dialog telling me to delete the task or cancel. Let us now create the final method, which is update the task. So we want to ensure that we can update the task, but to do that first, we need to load the data, that is the task title and the task description, and then we can be able to edit it. So for that, I'm going to create a method void update task. So first of all, we are going to create text editing controller. I'm going to call it title controller is equals to text editing controller, and pass the text to widget.pass.title. And I'm going to do the same for the description. Description controller equals to description here, like that. So I'm going to show dialog. So this is going to take the context, and then it's going to return an alert dialog. So here the icon, const icon, icons.edit, I'm going to set a color of colors.green, and I'm going to give it a size of 60. Let me give it a 40 so that you can have enough space for these ones. You can create a title. Title is going to be your text that says update task, like that. You can have style app styles dot normal text style, we can set content. The content is going to be a column, main axis size to main axis size dot min, main axis alignment to center. Children going to have a text field. Controller is going to be a title controller. Decoration, input decoration, sorry. So you can have label text to title like that, and we can have it as a const, and then we can create the other text field for description. And by the way, we can add a functionality for changing the priority as well, but I'm not going to do that in this video. That is something that someone can improve as well. Okay, so finally I'm going to add actions. So they are going to be inside of row with children. So this row, I'm going to give it a main axis alignment of center. So the children of this row, first we have an elevated button, and the child is a text that says cancel, that has a style of app styles dot normal text style, and this is going to have a context dot pop, just to remove the alert dialog altogether. Let me add commas here and save it. I'm going to try and call this inside of this container here. So I'm going to call it here and save. So if I try to click this, as you can see, we have that. I made a mistake here. The title controller for this one should be the description controller, like that. I'm going to add a sized box here with a width of size config of 20, and then I'm going to create another elevated button. I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. On this one I'm going to call update, and what happens here is that we now get the new title, string new title equals to title controller dot text, and we can also get the string new description equals to description controller dot text. We can also get the user ID by watching or by using ref.read, since we are inside the button. So ref.read the current user provider dot ID, like that, and therefore we can now create a new task. So final new task equals to task. So for the title, we are going to set this to new title. For the description, we are going to set this to the new description. For the priority, we're just going to return the one that we had, because I'm not going to change that. So widget.task.priority. We're also going to set the same ID, because we don't want to alter the ID of this task. So widget.task, no, it's widget.task.id also is complete. We are going to retain the value that was there. So widget.task is complete, but the date is going to change to date time dot now dot to stream. So with that, we get a new title, a new description, the same priority, the same ID, and a new date. So finally, with that, we can now update the task. Firestore controller provider dot notifier dot update the task. So we're updating the task with the new task. The user ID, and the task ID is widget task.taskid.id, like that. And then once that is done, we can context.pop. So let us minimize this and let me try to edit this task. So when I click on this edit, I should get this task 1. So let me edit it to something like task 2, for example. Let me click on update. So as you can see, it has updated successfully, but the values that remained, like the ID, is complete and all the other values remain the same other than the date and what we have just edited. There's just a few things that are remaining, that is filtering by the incomplete tasks, the completed tasks, and also the logout functionality. So I'm going to do that just now. So inside these all tasks, so here we load all the tasks that are available. We now want to do the same, but we want to load for the tasks that are incomplete. So I'm just going to copy some of the things here. So I'm going to copy the ID and the task value here. So I'm going to return this page and I'm going to paste this here. So I'm going to import these ones. The tasks async value, I'm going to change this to complete tasks async value is, we're going to load this from the load complete tasks provider, and that is what I'm going to pass here as well. This is the provider that I'm interested in, and then I'm going to import this package to eliminate that error. Another thing that I want to do now is that I'm just going to copy, I can just copy the entire scaffold here, and then I'm going to paste it here. So here I'm going to change this from my task to incomplete tasks, and then I'm going to import that. So this is going to change from tasks async value to complete async value, and this I'm going to import this widget, and I'm going to import the task, and also I'm also going to import the task item like that, and I'm going to save that file. So that should load the incomplete. So basically this should appear here as well. Of course it should not appear because this is loading for complete. So this I should be loading for incomplete. So load, that is what we want, load incomplete, then load incomplete like that. Complete tasks this should be now incomplete. So we provide the incomplete ones, and I'm going to pass this here, and as you can see it has loaded the incomplete ones. So I'm now going to go to the completed tasks, and I'm going to copy what I did here. So this is just basically copy and paste at this moment. So I'm just going to do that, and then here I'm going to provide that, and then this is now going to load complete tasks. So this is going to complete tasks. So load complete tasks provider. So let me try to import this. Yes, so this is load complete tasks. So this is the one that I want here, and I'm going to import this like that. I'm then going to copy the entire scaffold from here, and I'm going to paste it here inside the complete. So I'm going to paste that. I'm going to change this to complete tasks, and I'm going to import my app styles. I'm going to import async value widget. I'm going to import tasks. I'm going to change this from incomplete to complete like that, and I'm going to import the task item. So with that, if I save it, when I go to complete, I should not see anything. But if I go to this incomplete, and if I check it, like that. Of course, no tasks remain here, but if I go to complete, I can be able to see it here. Fantastic. So finally, now I need to go to the account page and I need to add the logout functionality inside this inside the account screen. So let me close this zone out. I'm going to go to the authentication. So I'm going to open authentication and I'm gonna go to presentation, screens, and then account screen. So inside this account screen, it's a consumer widget. So inside the build method, first of all, I'm going to get the current user. So final current user equals to ref.watch current user provider, like that. I'm just going to add an app bar here. App bar, of course, let me remove cost, app bar. So title is the text that says my account. Or maybe I should just basically copy the title from these ones instead of retyping it. So I'm going to import the app styles, and when I hit save, that should update it like that. Fantastic. So inside the body, so outside the app bar, I'm going to create the body, and the body is going to be a center widget, and the center widget is going to have a child, and the child itself is a column. So column has children, but this column is everything is centered in it. So, and the cross axis alignment of center. First of all, I have a text here that says account information, like that, and I'm going to give it a style. So style is app styles dot title. Let me give it a title text style, but I'm going to change the color, so I'm going to use copy width. I'm going to change the font size, not the color, so I'm going to change the font size to 20. Okay, so with that, I can see it has appeared there. I'm going to add an icon here, icons dot account circle, color to colors dot green. Size, I'm going to give it a size of 80, like that. I'm going to add a text here. So the text is current user dot email, like that. We can have another text whose value is current user dot uid, like that. Then we can have a sized box here. Get proportionate height, size config dot get proportionate height to a height of 20, for example, like that. So inside here, I'm now going to create a container. So this container, I'm actually gonna wrap it in a gesture detector so that it can have a clicking functionalities. So I'm going to add an alignment of center so that I can have the text that I'm going to put inside of it, in the center of the container. Then I'm going to give it a height. So the height I'm going to give it is size config dot get proportionate height to a height of 50, and I'm going to give it a width of size config dot screen width, and then I'm going to multiply that by 0.80, but we can have 80% of the width. I'm then gonna have decoration. So decoration box decoration colors dot deep orange, border radius dot circular, and I'm gonna give it of 20, sorry, like that. Give it a child of text So the text says log out. I'm gonna give it a style of app styles dot title text style dot copy with colors dot white. So if I save that, you can see we have the logout button completely identical to the one that I created in the demo application. So to finally complete this, I'm going to wrap this inside of an inkwell. I'm not going to take this functionality somewhere else. It could have been better maybe somewhere else, but right now I'm just going to place it right here. I'm going to show the alert dialog like that. But here, the advantage that we have now the context. So the alert dialog, it has a title. So the title is a text, but says, "Are you sure?" And I can have the style to app style dot normal text style. So icon is icons dot logout like that. Color, we'll give it to a colors of red, and I'm gonna give it a size of something like 60 like that, and it's going to be a const icon. So finally, I'm going to set the actions. So the first one is going to be an elevated button that when it is tapped, it's going to just close the dialog, and the child is going to be a text which says cancel with a style of app styles dot normal text style like that. So the next is going to be another button now for logout. So this one is we're going to pop that out, and then we're going to call ref.read of the repository provider dot sign out. So with that, if I save everything and restart the application, so if I click on logout, I'm presented with this dialog. If I click on cancel, a dialog disappears, but if I click on logout, I'm directed to the login screen. So the final thing that I want us to look at is the rules. So with these rules, as you can see, I said allow read and write if true. So the task that I created was with that other email, but if I create another email here, for example, let me go to register. So inside here, I'm going to create another account. So ngugi@gmail.com. I'm going to add a password. So as you can see, this person did not create these tasks, but they can be able to see these tasks. So that should not be the case, and that is because of the rules that we have. So when creating applications with the Firestore, you have to be careful with your rules, because you don't want other people seeing other people's stuff. So to do that, I can go to here, and I'm going to update these rules. So as you can see, how we are saving our data is that if I open this, so you can see we are saving data under users, then a user ID, then tasks, then task ID, and then the task itself. So to ensure that only the person that created that task is the only one that can see them, we need to change these rules that we have over here. And to do that, I'm going to say match. So we want to go to the users, right, slash the user ID, which I'm gonna put it inside the UID like that, and then slash tasks slash tasks ID, task ID. So we are going to allow read and write if the request.auth.uid equals to UID. Now with these rules, and if we can go back to Android Studio, as you can see, automatically we cannot be able to see the tasks that other person created. But if we create our tasks, we can only be able to see our tasks. So that is how you can ensure that the data of your users are safe. But this is of course just at the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot much more that you can do. There's a lot more kind of application that you can develop, and yeah, it's just something that you need to learn about. Anyway, I know that was quite a lot. We created so many folders and so many files everywhere, but it might not be very necessary for a small application like this one. But if you're working on a real big application, having folders and files like this can be very helpful, especially if you're working with other people. If it's you are working with a team, it can be very, very helpful. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed. Be sure to give this video a huge like. Also subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and also I do Flutter projects. So if you'd like me to do a project for you and or collaborate with you on a project, you can always contact me with the WhatsApp details that I provided, or the emails, or the social medias that I have provided, or even my portfolio website. You can visit it and contact me there. Anyway, I'm looking forward to working with you or to teaching you again in future. And yeah, stay tuned, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.